So there's a major battle brewing over Mississippi's Gulf Coast oysters. And just a disclaimer here, I am the furthest thing from an expert when it comes to oyster farming or legislation surrounding oyster farming. This is all based on my best understanding of the issue, but if I'm off anywhere, please let me know in the comments. So to catch up on the issue, Mississippi's Gulf Coast oysters have been suffering quite a bit. There was the oil spill that killed off a lot of that population. We've had a lot of flooding that has pushed a lot of fresh water into that saltwater sound. And so the oyster population and the oyster industry on the coast have been suffering as a result. As in, we just recently started opening back up oyster season again. So here's where the trouble starts. So the state of Mississippi says that they have a plan that will help to revitalize those oyster reefs and bring the state some money in the process. They've set aside about 6,000 acres of Mississippi Sound, which is be given in 15-year leases to major seafood corporations and similar investors. The thinking behind this is that if these companies are putting all this investment into these waters, they're going to want to get a return on that investment. So they are going to go above and beyond to help those reefs get replenished. Which all sounds good on paper, and the news coverage of the proposal has largely been positive, and it would undoubtedly work better than what the state has done with the BP money. But the plan leaves out one very important detail: Mississippi's smaller independent fishermen. These are families who have harvested from the Mississippi Sound for generations, and they have been hurting for the past few years as Mississippi has closed down the oyster season there. But they argue that this decision from the state could make them suffer even more, essentially taking all this public space that they have been harvesting from for decades and giving it over to private organizations, essentially cutting these independent fishermen off from their livelihood.
We've weathered every storm together, and here we are still standing, we're still here. And the biggest threat that we have comes from the political class taking away what we've been holding on to for decades.
The pushback from fishermen on the coast has been swift and it has been determined, with them arguing against a lot of the state's claims, such as the claim that there are no oysters out there to harvest. To which the oyster farmers are making videos like this and saying, well, if there's no oysters out here, what do you call these? But the main complaint is this idea that state legislatures are ignoring their constituents and the well-being of their constituents in order to benefit these large multi-million-dollar corporations, which is pretty on brand for our Mississippi leaders. And state leaders have been shockingly callous to these complaints. Last week, oyster farmers took a costly day off work in order to travel to Jackson to speak with the state legislators who are overseeing this bill, which I believe is Senate Bill 2263. But when they arrived, they were barely given the time of day by our state leaders, as seen in this video that was captured by one of the boat captains.
I'm not putting the same bill that's already on the calendar and doing it out of committee today, and I apologize.
Can I have 5 seconds?
5 seconds.
I feel like we've been sold out
By whom?
All y'all.
by our commission down there. Poor job
Did
being
you say
done.
all?
You have 30 men who took off plus from work today, and you won't give them 15 minutes?
What am I doing right now?
You're so generous.
In response, there's a lot of chatter on the coast from folks saying that not only do they not want to vote for these legislators anymore, they don't even want to vote for that party anymore because they feel so forgotten. The whole situation is a delicate line to walk because on one hand, we could use that commercial money to help restore some of these reefs. And the fishermen down there have even said they'd be willing to give a portion of that territory to these companies. But on the other hand, a plan that cuts all of our Mississippi oyster farmers out of the picture cannot be what's best for the state. If nothing else, state leaders need to make absolutely certain that locals have a seat at the table and that there is a clear line of communication whenever decisions of this magnitude are being made. Because remember, our elected officials are our employees. We hire them to represent us. And the day they stop representing our best interests are the day we need to start looking at finding someone else who will.